podcast, Beyond the Dirt, episode 10. Hey, we're in double digits now. My guest today is Sam Cawthorne from Nevada, Missouri. Sam's been an antique puller with us, and he goes other places too, and he's a Alice Chalmer lover. So we're going to let Sam tell us about his Alice Chalmer and how he got started in all that and his background. I think your grandpa pulled a little bit. Look at there, he's got his Alice Chalmer cup today.
So. Oh yeah. It was actually my uncle that was doing tractor pulling. Jack Wallace, he was known for being an Alice guy way before he was even a tractor puller.
He pulled with us, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I lived in Texas for moved away and lived down there about 20 years. And this, that, and whatnot. Life brought me back to the area, and I got to pull with him for probably about 2 years or so. And then I went out on my own and just love it. It's fun. It's a whole lot of fun once you get one that goes a little faster too, a little more horsepower.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So how did because I noticed when you first started coming, I always noticed the tractor names and stuff, and you probably remember this. I said, how in the hell did you come up with that name? The family drama.
Well, Uncle Jack and I, we had mixed words, as family will do sometimes, and I was like, well, I'll do it on my own then. And so I went and bought that tractor and named it Family Drama. And I don't know if you remember or not, but my very first tractor pull I took it to, couldn't even get it into first gear. Wouldn't even go into first gear. And Elmer, he came out and helped me, and he had to hold it and push the shifter and twist it because it's an old WC, and those things were, everybody always twisted them. Well, they weren't a twist handle, but they were so long, and the little ball and groove gets wore out, everyone pushing sideways and twisted them instead of just you roll it over and push it up. But anyways, he helped me get it in first gear, and it didn't pull worth a darn. And I changed tires, tried it again, still didn't do very good. So that winter I completely tore it down, and family or friends would come over to the shop there, and I'd be like, "You realize there's a tractor in here right now?" And they're like looking around. No, there ain't. I was like, start pointing out components all over the shop, and they're like, well, I guess there is a tractor in here.
So you had it all for you?
All the way down. Wire wheeled the whole thing myself, painted it, but I modified it. I didn't have money for an engine, so I just put a second transmission in it on that WC, which a lot of old farmers did back in the day to get some more horsepower. And I had actually gone up into Iowa and bought an old fence road tractor that had a double transmission in it because I wanted to see how they did it. Of course, they just had a rod that stuck out that held the transmission from twisting, so I went in and built the actual brackets, all that to make it line up. And
makes it more interesting to pull when you do it yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, if something happens, you did it.
Yes. Every bolt in that thing, I pretty much took apart, put together, except for the actual engine, because, like I said, I just didn't have money for that. But I even tore down the shifter neck, or whatever you want to call it, and welded them up, took a hand file, and filed them until I got those things where you can shift them with no problems. Love it. Ever since I put the second transmission in there, I can gear it down, get the right combination for the engine, and I think I do fairly well. There's guys out there that beat me.
You do good.
Yeah, I got a stack of t-shirts.
Yeah, you do good. you got a stack of awards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember our old buddy. He drives Alice, and I think he was having shifter problems too. I think I'm not sure, I might be wrong, but I thought he broke something or something because the way it shifted or something.
Right. There's a little bitty pin that goes in there that's round, and then it's slotted on the other side.
Right.
That thing will break off in a heartbeat
Huh.
and get wallered and turned and twisted. But yeah, it was pretty interesting taking that apart and repainting it and putting it all together and making it look.
Right.
Yeah, it was. Wish I could do it with all of them. Just keep going.
I had a question sent in, 417. Talked about the tractor you started last year, the diesel tractor.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wanted to know what motor's in it.
It's got a 301 turbo diesel. I didn't actually build that engine for that tractor. I got it. The hand clutch was out of it. Some other things because it had been sitting in the barn for a long time. It was actually J.D. Lathrop that I believe put it together. And, it had little things that were stuck and froze up. And got it down to the shop, split it apart, just put a coupler in there and put it all back together.
Pulls good.
Oh yeah.
It pulls real good.
Yeah, I'm real happy with that tractor. Just like anything else, you always want a little more power, but then you start breaking stuff, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's talk about, because we have before on the podcast, we was talking about the garden tractor end of it, but let's talk about antiques. Let's talk about weighting an antique tractor the right way for the track. How does Sam do it?
Well, every time I get to a track, I scratch my head, to be honest. Because you could have pulled that track, but depending on the moisture in the track, can make a world of difference as to what that track will do. And how your tires will grip or not grip. And like on my WC, you sit off to the one side. So I always take my body weight right off the bat before I do anything, provided I'm in a weight class that I can do it. And I put that weight on the opposite side of that tractor so that there's the same amount of weight on both those rear tires. And then after that,
That's what that guy was talking about. You know what you sent in? Because I had a question about that.
Oh.
Offsetting the weight, because there's a certain amount of weight on the side of this tractor and a certain amount of weight on this side of the tractor.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's what you're talking about.
yes, you want to have a balanced, even weight on both sides of those back tires. It's not so much in the antiques, but a lot of guys, the big tractors, they'll hook hoses to both of their rear tires to equalize them, to make sure that they are exactly the same. Not, we put well, it's pretty close, it's pretty close. No, they get them, there's a lot to getting them exact to go down the track straight. I mean, on the garden tractors, you can lean out to one side,
Oh, yeah.
that tire will start biting,
Oh, yeah.
and the other one will start slipping, and it'll,
Yeah.
but then I go from there. After a certain amount of pulls, you know kind of how the tractor acts. If I need to throw 100 up front to begin with, and then just stack the rest on the back. But like my WC, I pull that thing all the way up to 6,000 pounds and do pretty good with it. And I've got weights behind the axle, a weight rack just in front of the axle, and then a weight rack just in front of that one, and then the weights on the nose to get that thing up there and the weight. By the end of the day, I'm pretty tired.
Well, yeah.
Over 3,000 pounds
Well,
of
you know,
weights.
You go to a pull, for our viewers that not familiar with this, you go to a pull like you was down at Seneca, we didn't have a lot of tractors down at Seneca. Well, Sam's in these different classes. Well, he has to go to the trailer and load all these weights on, and of course the other guys do too. And man, some of them guys are up there in age, And what's them weights weigh? 100 pounds piece, maybe? 75?
Most of them are 100 to 65 pounds, just depending on which brand and the weight and the size. And yeah.
Say, for example, Ronnie Budd.
Yes. Yes.
I've seen him, be out there on the track flagging and look over there, and
Yep.
man, that's all he can do to get them weights on,
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and you definitely whenever you can, you help them out. But yeah, like you said, a lot of times I have the diesel and the antique pulling in the same weight category, but different classes. And I'll go pull the antique, go unhook, go to the trailer, load 500 pounds on it, hop on the diesel, run over across the scales, get in line, hook, run back around, throw 500 on it, jump on the antique, run over, weigh, and especially when there's not very many tractors, Bernie will have to be waiting on me, just because I got to throw weights, and it gets very tiring. You gotta love it.
Oh yeah. I think we're going to break for a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to Happy Jack's Foods, home of Beyond the Dirt Pulling Podcast. Come and see us, try out our good food.
Okay, let's get into drawbar height. I had some questions sent in on my Facebook page, not for this podcast, but somebody was asking us, they was kind of interested in pulling with us. Mm-hmm. And our drawbar height for 3 mile an hour is 18 inches. And cut tire and open is 20 inches. And a lot of times if we get out and we start measuring sometimes, I've checked them. I remember checking them one time, and I think the one was a little bit high. And sometimes if you get them 19 and a half inches, you're still good. So I think it was a question, But no more than 20 inches and no more than 18 on 3 mile an hour. Had a message from Ivan, and he wants to ask, he want to know from you, if I was to start pulling, what kind of tractor do I need? I don't care what brand I pull, just like to start doing it. So apparently he's out looking for a tractor. So
Alice Chalmers is the one to go
I
with.
knew you was going to say that.
I mean, I've got 2 of them, and they're absolutely great. And when you beat a John Deere, them guys do not like it at all. Yeah, but when you win, if you have a John Deere, you're just, they don't have nothing to say to you. They're like, well, yeah, it's a John Deere. You bring in a different color, and those guys will grumble. We'll start looking to see if you were breaking a rule somehow. But especially in the antiques, because Alice was way ahead of their time back in the day in the antiques. Like modern day, I would say John Deere is where you got to go. But back in the day, Alice was way ahead of the competition.
Albert was on here, one of our first podcasts, and some guy sent a question in, and I think Alice started in 1912. Before that, I think.
Yeah.
But they really took off in I think the first manufacturing plant was in Iowa somewhere. I should have went back and looked at that, but I think it was 1912 or something like that.
Something like that. I watched the thing about Alice and their plant and all that, but I can't ever remember what I did yesterday, let alone what I've watched. But it was really neat. They actually had a bridge over the highway there at one point, because the engineers were in one building because they had grown so much that they just kept moving everybody out and kept the manufacturing all on one side, and they had their engineers on the other side of the road. So they built them their own skyway bridge to get back and forth. And
Where the plant was.
where the actual manufacturing was going on. But Alice was big into the electrical. I didn't realize how big they were in the electrical, making transformers and generators.
That's right.
And all
Yeah,
kinds of
yeah,
stuff.
they did do that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's still stuff that power in places that is Alice from way back in the day.
Well, there's an old generator that used to sit out here at this business, and I think it was an Alice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it is. And I don't think they've ever come and got it yet, so we won't talk about where it's at. But yeah, it's they was going to get this generator, and I think it is an Alice Chalmers generator.
Yeah, it probably was. They were.
That'd be
really
a good one.
at
I
it.
might, if nobody's going to go get it, I might go get it.
Yes,
Of course,
depending on what motor it's got on there, it could be a good one.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. So.
And as far as what size of a tractor, a WC, a WD, WD-45, those are all great size tractors to start with on the antiques. There's so much you can do with them, and
see, we had a 45, a WD. What was the other ones? What was the littlest one?
Oh, they went on down to B's and C's, and they had some real little ones that were almost garden tractor size of what people have nowadays for garden tractors.
There wasn't a W40, was there, something like that?
I don't know for sure. I know there was an RC. It was smaller than a WC. But yeah, I'm not. There was a lot of them. A lot of them.
I know Jeremy Bible, garden tractor puller, he pulls the garden tractor now.
Mhm.
Jeremy garden tractor, so.
Okay. Yep.
Kim Benning. Mention this because podcast goes out everywhere. Kim Benning called me and Bernie this morning looking for a corn grinder. You ain't got a corn grinder, have you?
No, I don't have a corn grinder.
Cracker. Yeah, roller, something to roll his corn and grind his corn up. So if anybody has, get a hold of me on Facebook or call Kim Benning if you know him. He's looking for a corn to sway and grind his corn. So, okay, I got one here sent in, kind of. I guess it's for all of us. You can hear the story. It says, tell the viewers. It says, I can't read my own writing. I get these texts on my phone and then I copy them off,
Yeah, shorthand.
They want to know how the Black Widow sled got named. Well, I asked Bernie this morning and we was talking about it. Well, what happened was when Jimmy Freeman was partners with him, when they first got the sled back then, they were working on it and they was trying to think of a name for it. And I guess Bernie was laying underneath it or something. He was working on it and he didn't really care at the time. He was more worried about getting it focused.
Right.
And I guess Freeman seen a big old black widow and started running and yelling, "Black Widow, Black Widow, Black Widow." And so Bernie said, well, that'll work. He didn't want to,
Right,
That's
it's
why
just
they
a
call
name.
it-
Yeah,
that's what they call it, the Black Widow. So,
Yep.
well, that's how the name got. How does the sled work? Somebody wanted to know how the sled works. So you want to explain that?
Well, I'm sure you and Bernie know much better how it works. All I know is Bernie sits back there and it's got different gears and transmission in there, and because I can go the same distance with a tractor that has 40 horses as that great big diesel, so I know he's shifting that weight box up there a whole lot faster when I hook on.
It changes gears,
Yeah.
and as the box goes, or as everybody knows, the box goes up, it gets heavier, so it's on the gear ratio. Heavy tractors, like the big tractor, sometimes the claw go down, actually cut into the ground, a little piece goes down, and
Growler
bar, and that's how we stop the big tractor. So, but mainly we don't need to do that on the little stuff. Usually it's in what, first gear? He said.
bar. Yeah.
First gear.
Yeah.
Sometimes no more than second. That most of our pulls. So that's kind of how the sled works. Why do some tractors? Lee wants to know. Why do some tractors move so fast and others? I get a kick out of this. Why do some tractors move so fast and others slower? Won't that be more efficient, pulling slower with the lower gear?
Yes and no. The faster you go, you have more momentum. So that momentum will carry you an extra couple, it may be only a couple extra inches, but in tractor pulling, an inch is a mile.
Oh yeah.
And you're not letting, the slower you go, the more drag and resistance there is against the ground, because it's actually having time to grit and grab. You can get them sleds moving so fast that the pan isn't even touching on the front edge of them, because they're just zinging them down there. And on that's kind of what I did with my double transmission on that one Alice. But on the same time, if I had the horsepower, I could pull it faster, I'd go much further. That's the big difference between all that. And then you also have mile per hour caps on your categories. You got your 3 mile an hour, and then you got your 5 mile an hour top cut. And then you're open to go. And Bernie, isn't it normally about 12 mile an hour you want to keep us around or under?
Yeah.
Somewhere around in there.
Ordinarily, they don't go up.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Until you get up to
The super
the
hot ones.
smokers and stuff, yeah.
Like your V8.
Well, yeah, but it only weighs 4,000 pounds, so you ain't got to worry too much.
Yeah.
You know, we was on our last guys on the podcast, the hired boys,
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about, the different sleds and stuff, say for this new style sled, how that pan comes up so fast.
Yes.
So that you're talking about your speed and sudden death,
Mm-hmm.
more or less, on the antique sled, it's just grasswood, so there's the difference between that. 417 number. When is Benny Brown coming on the podcast? And I had this was a text, and it says, we want Benny, we want Benny, we want Benny.
Sounds like you need to get a hold of
I'm trying
Benny.
to get Benny on here, and Benny will not come on here. So
Yeah.
Benny, if you watch this, you got to get a hold of me. I want Benny and Rick Rice together. I
Yeah.
think that'd be a good podcast.
Yep.
So Benny Brown, Rick Rice, come on.
Yeah. They both have great tractors.
Yeah, they do. They got some good ones. You beat. I think. Well, let's get some drama started.
Okay. Little drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You beat one of them pretty bad a couple times, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I may have beat both of them at one point.
Yeah, I think you did. I think it was Sheldon, Missouri, wasn't
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
Sheldon.
yeah. I don't think
Because-
Rick's tractor was running very good
it?
that day.
Well,
He was having issues. We'll just leave it at that.
because I remember I was standing, if you remember right, I was flagging,
Yep.
and I was back where Rick had stopped, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and you had cleared the ditch
Yep.
where my truck was at.
Yeah. Well, if your truck hadn't been there, I'd have kept going.
Oh, yeah. So,
That's always the thing, to pull the sled further than it's supposed to go, so.
let's break for another commercial, and I want to talk, when we come back, I want to talk about our fun day we're going to have up here on April 15th.
While you're here at Happy Jack's enjoying the food, come on inside and check out the automotive memorabilia we have, and along with my new oil tanker. Come on by and see us.
Hey, again, thank Happy Jack's here in Columbus, Kansas for letting us come in here and do the podcast. It's the home of Beyond the Dirt podcast. April the 15th, we're having a car truck tractor show here at Columbus. Band coming to play. It's can't remember her name now, put me on the spot here in front of the camera, but it's a young lady that's, and she's recently opening for Reba McEntire this last weekend. So, pretty good gal. I can tell you her name, but just trust me, she's got good music. She's going to start playing from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And then that evening, I think she's going to play from 7 to 9. In the evening, they're going to have a street dance out here in the evening time. But the tractor show and car show will go on during the day. It starts at 11 o'clock. If everybody would show up around between 10, 10:30, something like that, we'll probably park your truck and tractor office site, which will be close by here, and hang out for the day. I've got some great awards to give away. I got 10 different categories to give away, so hope to see you all on April the 15th. With that said, I got this question sent in, and I asked the guy that runs the place this morning. I told him I had this question. It said, with the car show and tractor show coming, we need to interview that young lady that runs the cooking. So I'm going to see if I can't get her on the podcast. We can meet her before she gets here. But anyway, we'll see if we change up things and get to cook on the tractor pulling podcast, So
Eating's important.
eating's important. And if you ain't ate here, you need to at least try it a couple times. Excellent breakfast, good lunch. I prefer the tri-tip sandwich. Oh man, it's good for lunch. So let's get talking about, we was talking there at break a little bit. about the sled. Explain the bars on the sled.
Well, on Bernie's sled, he's got the weight box that transfers forward. Well, on some of the classes, like he was explaining, first gear is too slow, second gear is too fast, so he puts a bar up there that holds that weight box further up the sled from the very beginning, before he even puts it into gear. That way that weight box hits the end down there and gets that weight down on that pan to stop that tractor, where if he puts it in second gear, you won't go very far at all, and it's just not very fun. And the crowd doesn't come out to see guys move 10 foot and stop. They want to see you go around the 300 foot mark. Speaking of that 300 foot mark, it took over a year and a half for me to break 300 foot on Bernie's sled, and it was great once I finally did it. It was great. I don't know if we just had it in the wrong year or what, but it was amazing to finally break 300 foot. That was one of those goals you set out, you know. I don't know how many 299s. I was like, really? Seriously? But yeah, that's what those, and then he's got different length bars that you can put up there to move that pan starting point further up the sled. And but yeah, it's all about weight transfer. Whether it be the sled, the tractor, it's all about getting that weight transfer on there. You know, you want just enough weight on the front end that the front end comes up and dances off the ground steadily the whole way. You get too far, your front end too far up, it drops the drawbar down, for one, at the back of the tractor. Two, if you're riding on your wheelie bars, that you're losing power, because those things are designed every time they touch, they actually lift up the back tire, it loses traction, and then comes back down, which, once again, you lose speed every time that happens. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you have to do right in order to get one of these to move.
You know, we go to our big pull at Frystat and Stop City and stuff.
Oh yeah, love those.
And when I'm flagging out there, you know, some of them tractors without wheelie bars, you know, scare the crap out of me. I mean, they get up there, you know. And
Yes.
We got that chain out, you know, last year.
Yes. I would never recommend pulling without a wheelie bar.
And there's another guy too that pulls in Alice Chalmers. I can't remember what his name is, but he's got wheelie bars on the back, but they ain't as low as a lot of them, and man, he can get way up there. And it'll be sitting on the wheelie bar.
Right.
But his front end's way in the air, you know.
Well, a lot of guys, it depends on how far back, the plane of your back tire, how far back you go. The further back you go, the higher up it goes, you know, your wheelie bar can sit. Which there's different rules for different sleds as to, you know, the dimensions on the pads that are on the bottom. You know, the main thing to me is you can go put a floor jack underneath one of those and lift up the tractor. It's safe, and it's behind that back tire, so it can do its job. Because I don't know how many times I've been pulling, and I'm sure you've seen me. I'm bear hugging my steering wheel full on, and I'm not worried about it. I got wheelie bars. That's what they're for, you know. Just keep going until it won't go no more.
Somebody put their hat out there one day. It's hoping there's the way for their hat, you know. So.
Oh yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Well, we're talking about rules and sled. How do you feel about the Black Widow sled compared to other sleds?
I really like it. You know, Bernie's pretty much got a class that every tractor will fit into. You know, my tractors aren't exactly up with national standards. I mean, when you put two transmissions in there, you know, that's not stock. Most of your antique stuff, they want as close to stock as possible, except for when it comes to the insides of the motor, or they'll go spend a whole bunch of money and have custom gears, but you can't see what they've changed.
Yeah.
Now, like, I love pulling with the Medoc boys, but their customers are the guys from Oklahoma, and they posted the rules that, you know, that the Oklahoma guys go by, and my tractors just don't fit with their rules to go pull with them anymore. And kind of sad about it, but on the other hand, it's their sled, their rules. I really enjoyed pulling at their place. That they have one great tractor, lots of them. But and I've gone and pulled Spring River with my diesel tractor, and that thing is glued to the ground. I don't know if they go out in between each pull and drive stakes in the ground or what, but that is one of the hardest sleds to get off the ground.
It weighs about 52,000.
52,000?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's why. That's why. But once you get it moving, it's okay.
Yeah.
But that thing's like tying off to a tree stump.
Mm-hmm.
That's what somebody else said, it was like pulling a tree stump out, and then after you got the tree stump out, you take off.
Oh yeah, yeah. Once you get that thing to break loose, you're fine. Just to tell you a short story about that. Blaine Briggs seen me pulling down at Frystaff. That was one of the ones that it was like 2 o'clock in the morning pulls, you know. And he was like, "You really need to go pull Spring River." I was like, I mean, I'm glad you think I'm pulling so good that I need to go where the bigger guys are pulling. But so I looked up their schedule and found a pull and went to their pull. And, you know, I don't know anybody that's there, you know, so it's my first impressions, you know. And I get weighed in, I get pulled up there. I start spooling up the tractor where I would have it on Burmese, you know. This RPM's adequate for launching. I start letting out the clutch and it stalls and dies. I'm like, man, that's embarrassing. That's just embarrassing. And then I go to start it and it won't start. I'm like, man, this is really embarrassing. So I was like, messed a little bit, and it was like, nope, won't start run. I was like, I need a hook. Just drag me away from here. And I was like, hey, if I get it running, can I rehook when I come back around at the end and rehook? And they were like, yeah, you didn't move the 100 foot, but you only get one attempt. And I was like, okay. So I get pulled off to the side. I mess for a little bit. Well, on that tractor, I run two batteries because I've got an electric fan and water pump, and it also runs an electric fuel pump. Well, that battery bit the dust that was running my fuel pump. That's why, because I even tried drag starting, you know. I was like, what is the deal? Why won't this thing start? Never had this problem. Well, after I got it figured out, switched everything over to the one battery. I was like, it'll be fine for the night. Get started, get it running, get pulled back around there, get hooked to the sled again. Go to take off. I stalled and died again the second time. Talk about embarrassing. Embarrassed. I mean, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this just happened. I get unhooked, I leave. And I'm like, oh, good grief. Well, I had signed up for 2 different classes. So I went back to the trailer and re-waited for this other class. And I was like, man, I can't believe that just happened. Well, I just started dating the girlfriend that I'm dating now. She was at the tractor pull, and this was her first experience of seeing me tractor pull, and it was like, man, this is really, really embarrassing now.
This is getting good.
Yeah, and so I get pulled back around there, and I'm about to hook up. She's sitting in the stands, just quiet, and there's people around her, and they're like, this guy's not going to do nothing. We've already seen him try to pull twice now. He can't even get the sled to move. And, you know, so they're all talking, you know, and she just stayed quiet, you know, and, well, I got it to move this time. Took it out the gate, 334 foot, out pulled. The closest puller to me was, who was that? I think it was old man Holcomb on his 6000 tractor. Anyways, I beat it. Oh yeah. But I pulled him by 30 foot. So it was like, okay, I redeemed myself a little bit with these guys. But yeah, that was just embarrassing. You know, 2 times, first 2 hooks with these people and stall out the tractor. But the first time was fuel pump, so I didn't even really get into it very much. The second time, I went with the gear that I normally go with on a Bernie sled. Well, I dropped a gear to get that thing broke loose from the ground. Once you get it broke loose, you're fine. But yeah, that was a story I'll remember forever.
This don't have nothing to do with tractor pulling that made me think of something.
Oh boy!
Your girlfriend sitting in a stand.
Oh yeah.
You never know where you're going to sit, who you're sitting with, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A few years back, I went to this horse deal in Wichita, Kansas. It was where they had the big expo.
Okay,
Horses,
okay.
you know, every class of horse and stuff, shows and stuff. And me and another guy was sitting in the grandstands. We're talking hundreds of people sitting in these grandstands. So here I am sitting there about 3/4 of the way up or something. They bring these wild Mustangs in, okay? But they're broke.
Okay,
People
okay.
that broke the wild Mustangs got to bring them in and show them off, you know, do their little horse pattern and all that stuff. Well, this horse come in and he was kind of acting kind of goofy, you know. And of course, I've been around horses all my life, you know. I was thinking, okay, you know. Well, what I said, well, this old man had a pair of overalls on. You know,
Okay.
I mean, this is a few years back. He probably looked like me with my overalls on, you know. And man, he was sitting up in that saddle, you know, and, you know, horse was going on. And I looked at my buddy, JB, and I says, he better look out. He's going to get his antique ass thrown off of there.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, the people sitting right in front of me turned around and said, now that's our Skippy. Grandpa ain't going to get thrown off. I'll never forget that.
Oh,
Never
yeah.
forget that. You know, you
Oh, yeah.
never know who you're going to sit by in a crowd.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to talk about somebody, you better look around, you know, because everybody is related to somebody or knows somebody.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, but he's talking about Blaine Griggs. I want to get him on the podcast, but I know he's got. Have you heard anything about his wife? Or
I haven't heard anything recently to know. I know he's not planning on pulling with the big guys like he normally does. I think he's going to try to do the antiques and stay closer to home.
I know he sure wanted to come down and get on this podcast. He
Yeah.
said he wanted to wait a while.
Yeah, he would be the guy that.
He's got a lot of knowledge.
Oh, yeah. Every time he speaks, I listen. I know one time, the first time I cut my tires, I was like, if I'm going to spend all this time out here cutting them, I'm going to cut. And I put him at almost a 45-degree cut on there, and he came to a tractor pull and was like, you shouldn't have cut these sharp. You need to make them a little less aggressive because it just won't pull as good. And it was like, okay, I need to listen to this guy. He's been around and doing it forever. World of knowledge, and it's his memory. He's got to have one like an elephant because he'll tell you stuff from like 1968, September date, weight class, this, that, and everything else, and you're just like, I still can't remember what I just ate for breakfast.
Back after I had Albert on here, you know, Albert was on our second or third podcast, you know, and he said, you need to get hold of Blaine. You know?
Oh yeah.
So I called Blaine up. Man, I'll tell you what, we could have did a podcast over the phone. You know?
Well, and if nothing else, you may have to try to figure out some way to do that because.
He's very knowledgeable on everything, you know. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, a lot of people likes to know a little more about Sam. So you might, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. What do you do for a living?
Well, what I do for a living now isn't really the story of Sam so much. I did 20 years of helicopter mechanicing on Apache helicopters. I've also worked for SpaceX in Texas at their test site. So my background is aviation, and
You're a pilot too.
No.
Oh, I thought you.
No.
I thought somebody said you were a pilot.
no, I just a mechanic, but I learned a lot about weight and balance and mechanicking and vibrations and how to deal with stuff from all that aviation work. Granted, it's not exactly the same on these old tractors, but you can apply a lot of stuff you've learned over the years mechanicking to something else. You know, turning a wrench is turning a wrench. You know, now there's also a lot out there that I don't know yet, and I'm hoping I'll get caught up on the old tractors. Every time I get an old timer cornered, I like to pick their brains. I play dumb as I can be. Let them teach me something, you know. And that'd be the best advice I can give anybody is learn what you can from these guys. They won't be around forever, and it's sad the amount of knowledge that's lost every time we lose one. Yeah. It really is. But to answer your question, I work for the highway department now.
Okay.
So don't come after my tires or anything else. I'm not responsible for the potholes or anything else like that. I just go do what the boss tells me to do.
And somebody sent in, what does GZ do for a living? Well, want to know if I was a farmer, you know, so. And I'm amazed with the questions I get, you know, it's just, everything's different, you know. Want to know if I was a farmer. Hey, I live on a farm, wear overalls all the time. I mean,
Right.
you know.
I know you got horses.
Got some horses, got some cows, got some chickens, you
Yeah.
know, stuff like that, so. Like to farm, because can't make a living at it with no more ground than I got, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta have thousands and
Oh,
thousands
yeah,
of
yeah,
acres.
yeah, and it's amazing how farming's changed since we were kids, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, me and Bernie could tell you stories when we were kids, you know, cultivating corn or with them old farm mauls,
Yep,
you know, just 2 rows at a time, you know.
exactly. And a big field back then was 40 acres. I mean, that was a
Yeah.
monster field.
We had a field, what was it, a mile long,
Well, it's half a mile.
half mile long. God, it took forever.
Just to get to the other end.
Just to get to the other end, you know, cultivating 2 rows of corn, you know.
Yep.
And shoot, I can remember when I was a kid, my dad put a 4x4 or a 2x4, and he bolted it to the clutch pedal.
That
where
way you could reach it. Yep.
You know, you think kids today would do that? You know,
Actually,
I mean, there's
I
some
think the
kids-
young ones would.
some kids would do it. You know,
Yeah.
but we're talking, you know, the newer generation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, if it ain't got air conditioning, you know, and
Yeah.
stuff. So, we got any more stories?
Oh, let's see.
Surely we've covered
Like
something
it's-
else.
Oh, I'm sure if you get me started, I'll remember something that I've done or messed up on. That's more. There's a lot of lessons in there when you mess up on something.
You always learn from it.
Yeah, learn from it and don't duplicate it again.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let's see.
Let's take our last break. We'll come back and see what kind of stories we got.
Okay, while you're here in Columbus, Kansas, stop by the Happy Jacks Automotive Museum and Memorabilia, have a sandwich, and look at all the nice stuff we have here to see. Cars, trucks, signs, and just plain old stuff from back in the day. Everything from fuel pumps to advertising memorabilia and pictures of your local heroes. Come on down to Happy Jacks and enjoy.
Again, thanks to Happy Jacks here in Columbus, Kansas. Check it out. We're on South 69-7 Highway, just south of Hatfield Chevrolet here in Columbus, Kansas. We was talking a little bit on the break about some different pools. I know a lot of people's been asking about our schedule. We've been waiting on to get the final okay. We're going to do Stock City again this year, you know, about everything, Jasper, Liberal. I mean, everything's pretty well the same.
Yeah.
Other than, you know, there's a couple of pools maybe they're going to limit. We don't know for sure, but they're going to limit a certain amount of hooks. And I know you hook a lot, so
Yes.
tell viewers about hooking a lot, about every class there for a while.
Well, when you pull every class and sometimes 2 tractors per weight class, you know, it's a different, I don't know what you'd call it, because you got your farm stock, your 5-mile-an-hour top cut, and then your open. But there's all those classes for the same weight. So when you pull multiple tractors in that one weight group, and then you pull the next weight group above that one, and then the next weight group above that one, and then the next weight group above that one, you get pretty doggone tired and question your thought pattern on what you do for fun.
Oh, yeah.
You know, especially when you're moving up 500 pounds each time you move up in a weight class. You know, I know my trailer, it's just covered in weights from one end to the other, and I got more invested into weights than I do my antique tractor. You know, a lot of times guys don't realize how much, you know, you can have in just weights. My family, some of my family's like, well, do you win lots of money doing this? I'm like, I don't win any money doing this. I get a t-shirt and they're like, well, is it free to do? And I'm like, no, it costs you, there's an entry fee for each hook you do. And plus you got your fuel to get there, and you got your fuel for your tractor, and plus you waste the whole day doing it. But
It's like our bass boat. I mean, not my bass boat, but people's bass boat.
yeah, just
It's
like
a
that.
hobby.
It is a hobby, and
You
you
know?
enjoy it and love it. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it because there's a lot of work involved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that people don't realize happens at the house that you can't even test it until you go to the track.
That's true.
And you know, that's why a lot of times I'll pull in a lighter weight class just to make sure everything's, you know I'm not really competing to win for that first place there, but that way I make sure everything's working like it should. I get a feel for how that track is for the day, and then I can go back to my tractor or back to my trailer and weight it up for the weight class that I know I can compete in for a first place. But that first run for the day is almost just like a practice. So, and I do understand what to look at the tractor. It gets tiring to see the same tractor winning. I mean, but you know, it does get tiring. You do want to see different ones, but at a lot of pools, there's just not very many people that come. We really need to get try to get people out and involved and excited about it like it used to be. There's just not I mean, Bernie will probably tell you, there's not the turnout, like, not even in the stands.
We just figured last year, you know, I mean, yes, the numbers was down.
Yeah.
But we just figured, you know, it was the price of diesel, you know? And,
It cut me back.
you know, and a lot of things, you know, everybody's getting older, you know, and you know, their monthly check, Social Security, or whatever, you know, it only takes you so far.
Right,
you
yeah.
know, So,
Yeah, my plan was I was going to go to fewer pools and just pull more at the pool I'm at.
yeah,
Because the price of the diesel to get to the pool
yeah.
was so much that, you know, the price of the hooks was nothing compared to the price of the diesel,
Yeah.
just you know.
And it's come down a little bit, what, $1 maybe this year?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It's still outrageous. Yeah, just outrageous. But, yeah, hopefully it'll come down a little more.
That's like a garden tractor pull, you know, or garden tractor stuff, it didn't cut down. Of course, you take a garden tractor, you hook it behind your minivan and a little trailer and go,
Well, yeah,
you know?
a lot of people don't realize I'm pulling over 12,000 pounds behind my pickup
Oh, yeah.
truck every time I go to a tractor pull. And that's like I got my one trailer in a bad spot, and I collapsed my whole hitch system on my truck up underneath my truck, and you know, that took me out for a couple of tractor pulls while I built me a whole.
I remember that, something like that happened.
Yep, I was pulling Spring River, and we were at some school somewhere, and I wasn't even thinking about it. I should have known better, but there was an embankment there that went up to a road. And it was like I just pulled out like normal, and well, I had my big heavy trailer, and it's so long, and back in, dug into the dirt when I hit the road. And then I was hung, so I went to back up, and it just folded it right up underneath my truck.
Oh, man.
And I had to unhook my trailer and leave my tractors there. Fortunately, Willie, he came to my rescue the next morning and hooked onto it and brought it home for me.
He's a good guy.
Oh, real good guy. I love, anytime him and his dad are out, I love
We need to
finding
get
them
them
chat.
over here too.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, especially those two, because they remember and they got numbers in their head about this and that, and I'm like, I gotta write this stuff down, guys. I can't remember it. But yeah, they would be real good ones.
I like this tractor too, you know, just sorry, Willie, but, it just looks like a little piece of crap,
But that's what he loves that.
That's what I say.
He perfect.
He wants it that way.
Yes.
And I mean, it'll sneak up on you and beat you bad,
Oh yeah, yeah. He takes it to state and everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And I think if he thought he could make it look worse, like I'm not surprised he doesn't go out and just spritz oil everywhere just to make it look a little rougher, so that when he comes up to the line and beats them, they're like, "What the heck just happened?"
Oh yeah, that's over there at Freistadt.
Oh, yeah.
City. I remember somebody saying something,
Oh.
saying, "Man, what's that guy got in that tractor?" I said, "I have no idea. I'm just a flagman,
Yeah.
He spanked me bad. Yeah, he did. He spanked him bad.
Oh yeah. And his dad's tractor, that's a nice looking one.
Oh, yeah.
And it runs really good too. Yeah, that's definitely one thing I can say about the pulling tractor community is most everybody is a really good guy and they'll do what they can to help you. I was actually at Freistadt one year and my load jet fell out of my WC, which those Alice's are known for that load jet falling out, but you also crank them out as pretty much as far as you can go because they run better. Well, mine did a pull got off the track about 20 feet and it just died. It's like, what's going on? Sure enough, that was what was going on. A bunch of guys were just standing there, they're like, well, where's your trailer at? And I pointed to it, they're like, all right, well, let's start pushing. And we pushed it all the way up the trailer, and because at that time I didn't have a winch to pull it up on my trailer. I'd have been stuck trying to figure out. And but yeah, everyone's always willing to help everybody out as much as they can.
Good bunch of people.
Oh yeah, really is. We need to try to get more people involved and excited about it. Get them to come. Can't stress that enough, because even for me, when I get there, if there's an actual crowd there, it makes it so much more better because all the guys I'm pulling with already know how my tractor pulls.
Yeah, that's
You know,
true.
I know how my tractor pulls. But when there's actually people there to watch, it's like, okay, it was worth the $100 from diesel to drive here to do
Right.
this.
Seneca, we're gonna have, they pull Seneca, but I think we're just gonna do the rock tractors this year.
Yeah.
Something like that, because the rocks, the rock situation.
It's hard on tires.
But,
It's hard on tires.
we got Stott City, they got a good crowd. Freistadt's got a good crowd.
I'm looking forward to Freistadt because it and Sheldon seem to be almost like a mecca for tractor pullers. People that only pull once a year will show up to those.
I love Sheldon.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Good place.
Yeah, that one you'll be up 2 o'clock in the morning most of the time at a tractor pull, getting finished up. Yeah. I wish all the tractor pulls were that way every weekend, but they're just not.
Well, me and Bernie get to experience a lot of weekends.
Oh, I don't think you guys have a weekend during the summer.
I'll tell you what, we were talking about that the other night, somebody said about being out late. Well, Carthage, they change their times for the garden tractors to start before you ain't there so late, Well, what's the matter? We're there, we're used to it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning,
I know. I remember Freistadt and talking about going and getting biscuits and gravy because some places would be open by the time you got back home that morning.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you got anything else? If not, we're gonna wrap it up.
No, nothing comes to mind.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Hey, we'll catch you next weekend on Beyond the Dirt podcast, and don't forget to write down April 15th and contact me on Facebook and let me know if you're coming. So, thanks for watching and keep it between the lines.